Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Well, it's, I guess, somewhat fitting on this rainy day, as you can see behind me, that, it's nice indoor weather. The Olympics are on, Paris officially kicked off its coverage with, well, not Paris itself, but multiple networks, obviously, of the Paris Olympics showed off a rather unusual opening ceremony, I must say. At least they've gone for something different as opposed to, centering it around a stadium. I don't know if you had a chance to see any of the clips of that, Steve, but I thought it was quite a clever way of doing something different at the very least.
Well, it wasn't bad, I have to say that. A bit like you, and one of the great things about the Olympics I've always felt is that I've always been surprised usually by the opening ceremonies. They create a little narrative. It's different for every host country, and it's actually quite watchable. So I didn't mind it.
And they kind of leaned into the city and the history and all of that. I thought quite well by using the actual streets almost to demonstrate that, which I thought was a very clever way of doing it, and a nice refreshing change from what we would otherwise see in a stadium.
Oh, exactly. And also, the reference to the fact, and I hadn't realised that Paris hadn't had the games for 100 years. So it's quite remarkable when you think about the games, how they travel around the world, and the nod to history in the coverage and that opening ceremony was quite nice.
And one last thing I wanted to mention, I promise this is not an ad because I haven't got any endorsement from them, but I recently reactivated Stan. I've got all the subscriptions, or should I say I cycle through them as I feel the need to. And Stan's got the Olympic coverage here in Australia. Obviously Channel 9 does as well, but I actually like the layout of how Stan is presenting your ability to access whatever you want, whenever you want, and replay whatever you want as part of the Olympics. Now, obviously, straight up free-to-air coverage is you just got to sit there and watch whatever it is they're giving you at any given time. They've got the app. I had a look at that, and I found it a bit clunky to get through to find what you want, whereas the Stan stuff is just straight up front and center. You just pick today, start scrolling down the list. You want to watch some handball, you want to watch some gymnastics, you want to watch, the country you're barracking for. It's got it all nicely laid out and everything. So I was quite happy about that because I guess it's the first time I've kind of looked at Olympic coverage in that way, in terms of accessibility. I guess in the past, I know it's been available, but I feel like that straight up sort of linear coverage is all that's really been available.
Yeah, look, I agree. And look, my personal point of view on it, if there's any, I guess, sporting competition that really deserves on demand, it's the Olympics. There's so many great stories in the Olympics, and scrolling through all of those sports and seeing ones that you might have an interest in or you might know nothing about, and very often in the Olympics, the path to victory or just even a fantastic individual performance is by seeing something that you discover. And I think, unfortunately, and I'm a big fan, obviously, of linear free-to-air TV, but, I think on demand at the Olympics is the only way to watch it.
Absolutely. So many options available. All right, let's go back to US politics. We've been covering, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. I thought we were only going to talk about it for one episode. Now this is going to be our third, I think, in a row.
Ben, I don't even know what to say after the last 2 weeks, but there you go.
Well, we're skipping stuff, I'm sure, but I think we didn't get to the Trump assassination last time. But that's a whole other thing.
Let's leave that. That's in the past. That's so old.
That's right. But apparently now Kamala is Brat. Now, I picked on this particular story only because if we take it more from a serious point of view, I was thinking of the changing nature of politics in the modern era, which probably is the last 8 years, I would say, and especially because Trump, in many ways, he upended the what would be conventional thinking around what works, what doesn't work. And I almost feel like this is a natural extension point from that, not in the sense that they've got the same politics, but it's the idea that Trump came up, became famous as a cultural touchstone through a reality TV show, and that's how he connected with a group of people in America that came out in sufficient numbers to, in the right places to get him elected in 2016. And this, to me, seems like an extension of this, but it's not reality TV this time. It's the TikTok social media explosion. And I can see this potentially actually working for Kamala Harris in this particular instance, simply because of the sensation that it's created online, particularly around a younger demographic that's really engaged on TikTok and with these memes. And it's kind of like, it's like she's getting an endorsement from to be honest, I'm not fully across it either. This is how old I am. I think she's a singer or something, but Charlie XCX, and it's like, well, it's not a question of her endorsement, but she's established a movement and a vibe that she is now attached to Kamala Harris, which has then fed the machine to self-perpetuate the whole thing. Anyway, I feel like I'm going into word salad now, but anyway, that's I just feel like that's like a natural extension of where we are. And ironically, I would think, I don't know, like they'll be doing this on the Trump side, but there's a danger that, ironically, that he might start to look old by comparison, which he is old technically. So
yeah, Ben, I think you summed it up perfectly. Actually, this now is just descending or ascending into somewhere we've never even been before. Just to recap, though, the amazing thing about Trump is that he can just dominate the media cycle 24/7, 365. We saw it in his first presidency, and even prior to the assassination attempt, he was doing a pretty good job of that as only somebody running for election. Now, since the assassination attempt, he's got every second of the day online. What are we seeing with Kamala and Brat? I, like you, don't really know, but I do think that what that side of politics is understood is Trump is dominating the media cycle, and that's his 75 million rusted on, locked in votes. And so they have to find some votes, not from that 75 million competing pool. They have to find some new votes, and they're digging for them here. Now, the thing that we have to wait and see is, does this deliver votes? Or does it just deliver likes? Like, they're not the same thing. But someone on a whiteboard somewhere is definitely hoping. Definitely hoping.
Oh, they're definitely crunching the numbers on it right now. And it's funny, like it's only been a couple of days really that all of this has come through. So, and it's just exploded so quickly. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we joke, well, it's not a funny thing, an assassination attempt, but then straight after that, Biden announces he's not running again. Straight after that, Kamala Harris is, she's up for it. And then all of a sudden the endorsements come in, and then, and all of that. And it's funny, like you mentioned, that Trump dominates the media cycle. I actually think he might be getting driven nuts right now by the fact that, it might have looked like it was bad that the Democrats were ruminating over Biden's ability to run for so long, but they sucked all of Trump's oxygen out of his media cycle for a month, and it still seems to be continuing.
Well, that's very true, and I certainly don't think the play to remove Biden was calculated on the fact that it would suck oxygen from Trump. But it's a very interesting thing, and certainly the assassination attempt is like a very serious issue. But Trump's ability to dominate the media cycle is based on 24 hours, 48 hours, the next news, the next controversy, the next, outrageous statement. And so really now, I can't believe it, but really the assassination attempt is old news. If he actually tries to bring it up now, I think it's done. He maxed it in that 2 weeks, but now it's done. And I don't think that he can actually get any more mileage out of it. So he's obviously taken the advantage that it gave him at the time, but I wonder if there's actually any more mileage in it for him. And what we're seeing is US politics move to a surreal level where now TikTok memes are able to capture a new audience, which feeds into the election cycle. And that to me is such an extreme, political movement, not in terms of what it might be suggesting the politics of the day is, but that really it's just become an out-and-out popularity contest. I don't think it has anything to do with politics much anymore.
At the very least, just to finish up on this one, it reinforces to me that I think if you're trying to apply the regular rules of engagement to how this thing is going to play out, I think you're a fool, actually, because I just don't see where this is going. I stick by my statement from a couple of episodes ago that I really don't know where this is going, because I think we're in completely uncharted territory with all of this.
Oh, I completely agree with you, and I think that what you have been saying is actually correct. I think Trump has got his rusted on. He's got a number. I think that number won't grow. And I think we don't know what this new style of political recruitment that Bratz is undertaking. We don't know what that will do. I mean, on the one hand, it could be incredibly successful and lead to a victory. On the other hand, it could make no difference at all. I guess the one thing we do know is you couldn't do memes like this with Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
unless you wanted to vote for a weekend at Biden's.
Yeah, I think he did try on TikTok, but it's not really his thing. I don't think.
It's not. TikTok is a very certain market.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's just go into our last topic here. Apparently, I don't know, some Windows PCs had some problems last Friday. Who would have thunk it? So this CrowdStrike issue, so an update was issued that, caused a whole bunch of, millions of PCs to go into a blue screen of death meltdown. I thought, this is 2024. Why are we still having blue screens of death? But anyway, it must have been hilarious if you were showing up at an airport and all you saw were blue screens of death.
Look, I cannot imagine what it was like for anyone who was inconvenienced by this. I mean, personally, I'm very old school, so I think just get it together. If you can't catch your flight and you have to sleep on a concrete floor in an airport, be thankful you're not in a war zone, that sort of thing. So, but I do appreciate that not being able to spend money because all your money is on a card or in a transaction that can't happen. That's very serious. But the flip side to this is, and everyone can maybe have a laugh at this because I told you this before, Ben. I started work very early in the morning that day and would have been, I think, when the US would have been going to bed anyway, so maybe they didn't see it. And I got a few blue screens of death and I just thought it was a typical Windows incident. My computer restarted 4 times, probably over about 6 hours. I didn't touch it because it told me not to touch it. It just said, we're going to restart. Don't touch anything, And so I didn't, and it successfully rebooted every time. And I thought, well, that's the price for using Windows, right? Now, I appreciate this is very serious for all the people who lost billions of dollars or whatever else happened or had to sleep on a concrete floor or couldn't get home and and that. So it's certainly not making light of that, but gee, it is a worry. If we're going to be upset by these things, if it's really going to be disruptive, then how do things like this happen, Ben? I've got to ask you because you're the only person who can answer.
I'll try the best I can, I guess. Maybe nobody knows. The thing that just quickly because it just occurred to me was that I heard it mentioned that Australia unfortunately cops the brunt end of a lot of these things, because in America they'll run an update overnight, but that happens to be that coincides with first thing in the morning here, and then so we get hit, etc. But anyway, that's a side thing, I guess. The thing here too is there was talk about how is it that there's a script, an update script that ends up getting run of code in the Windows kernel, to the extent that because Microsoft has allowed access for CrowdStrike to send this through. And I don't know entirely the details. It had something to do with EU antitrust regulations that forced Microsoft to do it. But then why did it only impact Windows-based computers as opposed to anyone else? Not explaining, not pretending to know the details. Someone can correct me about any of that stuff. But it just seems to me that there's a lot of like hand washing. Oh, no, it's not us, that sort of thing. And it's like, ultimately, in this day and age, that kind of update can't be allowed to happen. I mean, it's a human error thing for sure, but it exposed that maybe we shouldn't be relying on these types of PCs, for lack of a better term, to run some of this critical infrastructure in society. That's one aspect, but then there's the other aspect of, well, perhaps an update like this shouldn't have happened in the first place.
Well, I completely agree. An update like this should never have happened in the first place. It's obviously an error. They say 8.5 million computers, but what does that mean? Does that mean the 8.5 million computers in charge of whole networks? I don't know. As I said, I had the restarts forced 4 times during the day, and I just thought it was a normal Windows thing. So but then I didn't touch my laptop because it told me not to touch my laptop. I guess, if anyone had dislodged the power or tried to do a hard reset or anything like that because it was taking too long, that probably broke their machine. We do need to consider, because I think this is a far bigger threat, say, than AI or anything like that. If you're someone who only uses virtual transactions, i.e. not cash, if you're somebody who relies on being somewhere, and typically if you're an ordinary person, this is the toughest thing. If you have means, if you're of a certain class, I'm pretty sure you can get by in situations like this one way or another. But if you're just an ordinary person stuck at an airport, it's not great, especially then if you can't buy yourself something to eat. So, yes, how do these things happen? And perhaps we were just very lucky that it was relatively mild and relatively short-lived. I mean, I think the comment's already been made. You can imagine if this was a rogue action and it was more serious than this, then where would we have been?
Absolutely. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there. I've got more Olympics to watch. Maybe I've got too much choice because I can pick whatever I want to watch, right? So, but all good. Maybe I'll rewatch some of that ceremony magic. Let's put it that way.
There's more coverage than 24 hours in a day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so that's it for this week's episode. We'll catch you next time.